related.
Hi there.
What do you have?
Hello.
It's just like
It would have been hiking boots with these. I wasn't going to wear my hiking boots.
Are we gonna vote? Are we voting on anything in
Yeah,
here?
very good.
No, that's not exactly.
No, we're gonna hear two nothing bills more and then here. we're gonna exec on about 5 or 6.
Okay.
Got a great bill, it's one of mine.
Yeah,
You can't miss it.
that's right.
You got a handout?
Oh, Frank wants to charge.
Oh, yeah.
Never good.
I guess this is just one for the chairman. I don't know that.
You got something to distribute?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not sure what
What are we getting
Just
here
give
first?
you those, but we have 20 of those. 20 of those.
I would hear, I could stand, yeah, here.
And 20 of those.
Okay.
Are you good?
Long good?
Hi there, yeah. It's almost an 8-hour day, right?
Okay.
So I don't really know what to expect
I'm here for the duration.
just decided.
there. Great. I'm going to try to make an operation.
And that one bill I was telling you about, they were drafting an amendment for that. Correct.
It's not difficult. I've never.
We're drafting an amendment.
See, I have a hearing
It's a-
going on my own.
It's technical, it's not, it
At the
doesn't
same
change.
time, so we're meeting
So
over
it
there,
was
but,
just, it was
I'm
something you could.
so I'm very confident when Wednesday, we've never had one canceled.
It's supposed to be a training.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
So we're going to go with something else first?
Well, they used to, there was a Senate bill that they were trying to work with a senator, so you never popped in over there and talked to him.
No, I didn't do that.
You've been in every good like,
Hey there.
I think it's on, is that on our list? That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll chat.
Okay, that's fine. Is that, did that make it to the floor? It's still in committee.
very bad bedside manners.
Rules.
I've got the amendment.
I'm not-
Yeah, so both are done? So all of these are but it's those copies will be there.
Thank you.
Okay, Sam.
Long day, that's it.
Yeah, but that's the reading policy.
Yeah, Daniel Baker, that's
That's one of those laws.
that's very
Or anything. It's just a plain old, it's just a plain old policy.
Thank you. I've got it written down.
If I sit in front of you, you're not going to throw spitballs on there.
Spitball's gonna be fun, actually. It's just nothing else.
You're not going to be opening up letters to the others.
That's funny you say that.
Yeah, that is funny.
So, this,
You got a story or something?
so for my,
So you're not going to tweet something?
so my kids,
I don't.
so my kids, my kids both went out and they picked out their actual gifts for both of them. And my daughter, I hadn't brought her gifts yet this morning. I was walking out, she's like, Dad! I'm like, we should do that. Right. We pulled it. I'll get it. She's like, no, I'm gonna put it in the bag because I don't want you to get the tags. I don't have a picture of it. It's old. It's a magnifying glass about this big on a calendar. That's all this is supposed to be a letter opener. So I'm like, dude, you would be hung, but it's like, and it's this big. I'm like, man, if I bring the letter opener for you, Sam, it's not gonna go. I wish I had a picture. It's so ridiculous though. It's like cows one.
Did she pick it out herself?
She picked it out herself.
I think that's very sweet.
It was adorable. And then Alex got me
There we go.
Harry Potter book. He just thought I'd learn.
Has it disappeared since he gave it to you and it's now in his room somewhere?
Probably. So the provisional was everything.
That's what my son would do, my husband. Thinks that was what it is.
No. Alex really thought. I mean, he was sincere about it. Thinking that I was, that I would like.
See, Will really thought that his dad like to build zoos.
Yeah.
And then when he started playing with it, he told his dad that he was building this, so that made it okay.
I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah. How are you getting along? Good.
Yeah.
Good. So were you acting for leadership?
Yeah, they have never let me do a previous question. I've done one. That's the only thing people want to do. Oh yeah, it's a regular August time.
All right, so when do you have to segue? You don't resign or anything like that? You
No, I can run. I can run. Now actually, if I'm successful, I have a whole primary interview. Like, if I'm successful, my term begins January 1. So I can run sometime 7 or 8 days earlier.
But that doesn't interfere with, I mean, your campaign, so to speak, is different. I mean, you can't do the same thing. I'm glad you.
It used to be. There was a provision in Missouri states called it was I can't think of the word to describe it, but it was a prohibition about the position of the issue. You know, there was a Supreme Court decision back in 2002 saying that candidates and judges have First Amendment rights, and they can take positions. So I can run it just like I was running for state rep if I thought it was appropriate. Now the problem with taking positions, you know, public positions on too many things is that you will end up being disqualified. Everybody knows taking a position, so it's probably kind of wise not to. But I'm going to. I already see what I could do, you know, public my political record and so forth.
And I think that I'm like,
I mean, what's up? It matters.
for the last,
Other issues like that.
Or you can do
I think the last couple of
Exactly right. Exactly right.
so that's going to be a little.
The Committee on Healthcare Policy will now come to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Frederick,
Here.
Franklin, here. Cross, Hodges,
Here.
Kelly, Kirkton, here. Morris,
Here.
Neely, Neff, Case, White,
Here.
Wood.
Here.
Very good. And our first order of business will be to hear House Bill 1846, sponsored by Representative Stanley Cox. Welcome, and you may begin when you are ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Stanley Cox from the 52nd District. I appreciate the opportunity. This bill has a lot of specific provisions. I just go very briefly through them to help identify it for the committee and not necessarily the order in which the bill. First of all, section 188.0223 in this puts a new provision in the law that requires the state of Missouri, when they receive a report of a sexual offense, such as incest or indeed other sexual offenses or statutory rape or something, that when they take these reports, if the report is made from a provider of abortion services, they are to provide them a summary report, which is included in medical records. They have to put that in the medical records kept there. The purpose of that is further amplified on the next thing that I will say, is that provides for an annual inspection of ambulatory surgical centers that provide abortions. The reason for the first provision is that if they're not doing what is required by law in reporting these types of offenses committed against very, very young girls, then that information would be available and should be looked at by the state when they do these inspections of the ambulatory surgical centers that provide abortion. One of the issues that this is trying to address is the issue that, in fact, a lot of abortions are performed upon very young girls. Actually, I think there's some history, and you'll hear some witnesses of older men bringing them into abortion clinics. The law currently says that they're supposed to report when it looks like there is something, make a hotline call when it appears to be one of those kinds of offenses. And this just provides some assurance that they do what they're required to do in the report, because it would become apparent if they did not. Next provision is referred to as 188 in 027. This deals with the referral of abortion service outside of the state of Missouri. Currently, Planned Parenthood in Columbia, which has a facility, does not currently today do abortion services. And I suppose in the future this could be other places as well. But they do make referrals for abortion out of state, in this case Kansas. Current law requires that there be informed information provided under the state law presently prior to an advice and information provided to a woman seeking abortion services prior to them accepting payment and providing those services under the waiting period that's currently existing under law. This assures that the same rules apply to people who are being taken out of the state of Missouri, in this case to Kansas, for abortion service. They must provide the same information. It clarifies the language, and that language is not currently clear because it really refers to providing abortion services, and these are people referring someone else for abortion services. Also briefly, there is a provision about expanding venue in regard to the offenses that are provided currently by law in regard to abortion services, not only to the locale in which the abortion services are performed, but also the residence of the mother, believing that sometimes there might be occasions where abortion services are provided, where law enforcement prosecutors might not do their job, and the offense, abortion offenses are certainly not victimless crimes. They involve the mother, and it seems appropriate to include the residence of the mother being a possible venue for those offenses which currently exist in the law. There's also a provision about creating a cause of action. There's also a provision about creating a unique identifier number, which gives a cross-check that, in fact, women who are pregnant seeking abortion are, in fact, provided those notifications that they're currently required to provide. I'll certainly answer other questions. There are a number of witnesses, I think, that want to testify in favor of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Does any committee member have a question for the representative? Representative Curtin.
Stay quiet, please.
Good evening, Representative. I apologize, I stepped in just a little bit late, and so I think are you expanding the language that we put in maybe a couple of years ago on coercion? Is that what you're putting in here?
No, I don't think so. The things you might not heard that I spoke of first of all is that when there is a hotline call, there is a requirement that the Missouri DHSS provide a short summary report to the people who are making this report that they have to keep in the medical record. So, but that doesn't. I mean, that is designed to prevent coercion, but it doesn't really change the law in regard to it. They have a statutory requirement of making those reports. That might be what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think I am. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions for the witness? All right. We'll now proceed to hear testimony. I first want to see how many people are here in support, who wish to testify in support of this bill. Okay, and how many are here wishing to testify in opposition? Okay. We will go from support to opposition, and I would ask that you keep your comments, keep your testimony to 3 minutes or less, and I will notify you when it's been 2 minutes. So the first witness who would like to testify in favor, please come forward. I'm going to just hold my hand up with 1 minute remaining after you've gone 2 minutes into.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Troy Newman. I'm with Operation Rescue. We're based in Wichita, Kansas. And for the past 15 years, we've documented the abortion abuses inside big abortion, inside the abortion industry. And I want to just recall some of these for us. Other than the famous Gosnell case from last year, we've seen just March 21st of this year, last Friday, a 22-year-old girl died at the preterm abortion clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. March 12th, full-time abortionist Tyrone Mallory was sentenced to 4 years in Georgia, in Georgia's prison for abortion-related fraud, among them not reporting child rape. On March 10th, full-time abortionist Dr. May Alai surrendered his medical license in Maryland rather than face a continued investigation, one of which was not reporting child rape. Just 2 months ago, Planned Parenthood in Chicago was forced to pay $2 million in the death of Tanya Reeves. I just read the defendant's deposition where she admitted she perforated her uterine artery, lacerated her cervix, and ruptured her uterus. Reeves languished in that Planned Parenthood facility for 5.5 hours before they called 911, but even the Level 1 Trauma Center couldn't save her life. On March 4th, this is all this year, Leroy Carhart of Nebraska lacerated his cervix so severely the woman needed 4 blood transfusions. Thankfully, 911 was called in time and her life was saved. This is not health care, my friends. This is the lowest standard of care across the industry standard. Because just, you have in front of you a report that dictates 26 ambulance runs to the single Planned Parenthood in Missouri. 26. We don't know whether these women are dead or alive. It's beyond the standard of care. This is beyond the norm. We've investigated these things, again, for the past 15 years. We've done repeated FOIA requests in St. Louis and been rebuffed. I believe because Planned Parenthood is sending a message to the prosecutor and to the Department of Emergency Services not to provide us with this information. Now you may say, hey, this stuff is outside of Missouri. But this is indicative of what goes on inside the abortion industry today. So in conclusion, I believe this bill, once passed, would strengthen the requirements in the state of Missouri, and it would also prevent women from going across the border into Kansas and receiving faulty medical care there. You might be surprised to know that over half of all the abortions done in Kansas are done on Missouri women. They're evading the laws of this state, and I think this bill would strengthen that. You might say, well, you know, there were some laws passed there in Kansas, and there was something that happened, but 107 criminal charges were filed by our former Attorney General, and under the next administration, under Sebelius and the next Attorney General. 1 minute left. Thank you.
No,
it's time.
Time is right.
Those charges were conveniently erased, and all the evidence was gone. So please, in Missouri, we need your help. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And you please leave a witness form. And are there any questions for the witness? Yes, Representative Cross. proceed.
Sir, you made a comment. 26 ambulance runs.
Yes.
Would you elaborate on that, please?
Well, what that is witnesses have documented 26 ambulance runs that have called 911. Each one
You should
in St. Louis. You've got a form right there with the dates. We've made Freedom of Information requests to get these 911 calls. They're lawfully should be provided to us, but they're not being provided. And what it represents an emergency. We don't know if these women are hemorrhaging, are dying, have already died.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I overlooked this.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any further questions? If the witness would like to come back to the stand.
Oh, no, actually, this is probably more for the...
Oh, it's for the representative. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
To briefly inquire. On page 9 of what I've got listed here in section 7, it says any physician who performs or induces an abortion upon a woman without her voluntary and informed consent given freely and without coercion in any abortion facilities in which such abortion occurs shall be liable. Isn't that a criminal offense?
What's your question? I don't understand what your question is.
Well, my question is, if a physician performs an abortion without the informed consent and voluntary consent, it's criminal.
Right, and this also gives a civil cause of action as well. That's right.
And there was no civil cause of action before.
Correct. That is new language, yes.
So all that could happen would be a prosecution and sent to jail if they did this.
I wouldn't guarantee that. There might be some civil cause of action, but this clearly delineates a civil cause of action as opposed to the current law, which is not clear.
Okay.
I think that's fair to say.
The Board of Healing Arts would also have some jurisdiction over this as well if it was outside the standard of practice to not obtain consent for a procedure. So there are a number of avenues that would be available.
But I think the short answer is that it's not clear that there is a civil cause of action in addition to the criminal offenses that exist.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? We'll now hear a witness in opposition. Welcome, and again, I'll remind you when it's 1 minute remaining.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Ryan Summerford, and I'm the statewide manager of government affairs for Planned Parenthood Advocates in Missouri. And I'm here to testify in opposition of this bill. 1846 specifically would impose burdensome and medically inappropriate informed consent process to any women who are only seeking information about abortion. For abortion care options outside of Missouri. I'd like to point out that Kansas has one of the most restrictive abortion laws already in place, and a very similar and stringent informed consent process for Kansas is followed by Planned Parenthood Comprehensive Health Services, which is in Overland Park, Kansas. Silencing doctors and restricting access to safe and legal medical procedures is dangerous. Requiring women who are only simply seeking information about abortion to go outside of the state to fully undergo the informed consent process is clearly an attempt to make access, to restrict access to care. The intent of this bill is to harass abortion providers and to discriminate against women. by imposing potentially erogenous or accounting procedures. In addition, promoting an unfounded fear that abortion is somehow unsafe is also dangerous to access to care. Abortion is one of the most regulated medical procedures in Missouri, and reproductive health services are among the safest in the United States. According to the Guttmacher Institute, abortion is one of the safest medical procedures with less than 0.5 risk of complications. Specifically pointing out a few things in this bill that I wish to clarify is the accusation that medical professionals, no matter where they are or who they work for, would not report serious cases of abuse is insulting. These are medical professionals who are mandated by the state to report these instances of abuse to the Department of Child Services. And that is being done and is currently documented into the patient's chart and is also checked and verified during the inspection process.
And your 3 minutes are now
Sure.
expired.
There
Thank
are a few other things in the bill that I'll make sure to put into my witness
All
statement.
right.
But I
Are there any questions for Mrs. Summer? Ms. Summer? Go ahead. Representative Wood, proceed.
Just to clarify a little bit for me here. And I apologize for not being extremely familiar with the bill here. Are you saying that it's requiring the Planned Parenthood or whoever would be referring for an abortion outside the state, that they follow the same guidelines that we would for an abortion inside the state?
So, your question is, would they be following the same procedure?
Well, right now, if you're going to perform an abortion inside the state, you have to have the waiting period, you have to provide the documentation, you have to show, we've even discussed maybe even putting a video in.
Sure.
But if you refer an abortion outside the state, do those obligations
So for example,
Still-
this
Are you talking
sponsor,
are you talking currently?
currently?
They do not, they're not required.
So you're objecting to applying the same standards outside the state that we do inside the state?
So specifically, the sponsor mentioned the Planned Parenthood Columbia Health Center.
Okay.
I will point out that the Columbia Health Center is a Title X organization. So if a patient comes in and she wants information about abortion, all that we can do is give them a piece of paper with the Planned Parenthood address and an 800 number for them to call. We can't set up the appointment for them, we can't tell them how much it costs, we can't tell them how to get there, or pressure them or manipulate them in any way to try to choose abortion over adoption or carrying the child to term.
Okay.
So to put those, we would be, the Columbia Health Clinic would either then just refer to reproductive health services in St. Louis without the same cost. They'd get the same piece of paper with the 800 number, with the number on them. But there are, Columbia's in the middle of the state. There are some patients who go to health centers in Kansas City. I think we have 5 health centers in Kansas City and also one in Warrensburg. And so it's actually closest for those patients to actually go to the Overland Park area to be visited by a metro health center instead of having to travel an extraordinary amount of time to go to St. Louis, where the same information could be done, but if we wanted to refer them to Overland Park, they would have to be given the option for an ultrasound, they would have to go through the informed consent process. There's a large checklist, about 26 different things that are in statute that the patient would have to medically and unnecessarily undergo just to get information. Not actually getting the abortion, but to just get information.
Okay. And directly to the question, if the Columbia refers them to St. Louis,
Mhm.
which is inside the state, when they reach St. Louis, they're going to have to follow certain procedures.
Sure. Mhm.
If they refer them to Kansas, though, are those procedures the same?
They're very similar. Like, I don't have a side-by-side, but there is a 24-hour waiting period. There is an informed consent